All right, we're back to the regular governing board session. Item 301, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 302, approval of tonight's agenda.
Mr. President, I move approval of tonight's agenda as published.
Second?
Motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 401, approval modification of the minutes from the April 17th meeting.
Mr. President, I move approval of minutes from April 17th.
Second?
Motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to 501, consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move approval of the consent agenda as published.
Second?
Motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We passed tonight's consent agenda. Just wanted to thank, as part of tonight's consent agenda, those who donated: Sun Produce Co-op, John Brewski, Bloom, City of Tempe, and Redon, Arizona. And Mr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll. We have a lot of smiling faces out in the audience today. We have 3 individuals that you approved on the personnel summary this evening that I'd like to share about. I'll start with our first individual. Tonight you approved Miss Gabby Dunton to the position of Assistant Director for Organizational Effectiveness, and I'll share a little bit about her background. Gabby graduated from Arizona State University, where she earned a bachelor's degree in English literature and a master's degree in English language learning. Gabby began her career in TD3 in 2016, serving in such roles as communications specialist, coordinator of strategic partnerships and communication, and most recently as assistant director of strategic partnerships and communication. Gabby's colleagues say that her professionalism and willingness to take on new initiatives is second to none. She is proactive and a creative problem solver and possesses exceptional communication skills and attention to detail, which will help her excel in her new role. Congratulations, Gabby.
Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Driscoll, 8 years ago, I started at TD3 in an entry-level position as a communications specialist. And in that time, I've had the pleasure to work alongside incredible people who have the deepest care for students and staff. And these are the people that have inspired me, helped sharpen my skills, and helped presented opportunities for growth. And those opportunities for growth have been approved by this board each time, so I sincerely thank you for that. And I am really excited to be stepping into this new position. Dr. Driscoll, can't wait to work with you. I can't wait to support the strategic plan, our chiefs, our leadership. I think it's going to be a really great role. I'd also like to take a moment to say thank you to Brittany Franklin, who has been the most amazing mentor over the last few years. Everything I know is thanks to her. I really do credit her leadership for where I'm at today. Joining me tonight is my husband, Tristan. I want to say thank you to him for his support. And if I may, I want to brag a little bit because he'll be graduating with a degree in electrical engineering from ASU this Saturday. It was not easy to go back, but he went back and did another 4-year degree, so I cannot be prouder of him. We also have baby Isla, who will be making her debut next month. So a lot of exciting things happening for us. Thank you again so much for this opportunity.
All right, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, you also approved tonight Miss Veronica Hibbert to the position of principal of Wood Elementary School. Veronica earned her bachelor's degree in early childhood education and a master's of curriculum and instruction in language and literacy from Arizona State University. She also holds a master's in education and educational administration from Grand Canyon University. Veronica brings a wealth of knowledge in education, serving as a classroom teacher, K-3 reading interventionist, literacy coach, and most recently as the TOSA for Wood Elementary School. Those who know Veronica best have shared that she is an instructional leader who's passionate about all kids succeeding. Veronica consistently advocates for students to meet their unique needs. Having been in TD3 for close to 20 years, Veronica understands the need to be relentless in her quest to do what is best for kids and is more than willing to go above and beyond for the students in her care. She's thrilled to continue being part of the Tempe Elementary School District in her new role as principal of Wood Elementary School. Congratulations, Veronica Hibbert.
Good evening, President Miller, members of the board, Superintendent Driscoll, district leadership, and guests. I am truly honored to be given the opportunity to serve as the next principal of Wood Elementary School. I started my educational journey with TD3 18 years ago, and it was a different role, but the mission was the same: to make a meaningful contribution to the education and well-being of young learners. Working alongside members of the Student Success Enterprise, the dedicated team of educators at Wood, and the broader Tempe community will allow me to grow as a professional and push me to be at my best every day. I would like to take this opportunity to express my heartfelt gratitude to a few of the mentors who have played a significant role in my professional journey. Jessica Larson, principal of Wood, Vernice Sharp, principal of Nevitt, Andrew Lebowitz, principal of Scales, and Jennifer Whittington, principal of Getz. Your guidance and support have been invaluable to me. Last, I would like to thank my husband, who is here with me tonight, Ty. Thank you for being my biggest supporter and embracing the sometimes long and stressful days as an educator. I thank you all once more for this opportunity. I am committed to leading Wood Elementary School with integrity, passion, and an unwavering belief in the potential of every student that we serve. Thank you.
All right. Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll. Tonight, you also approved Dr. Catherine Linhart to the position of project manager, and I'll share a little bit about her background. Catherine earned a bachelor's degree in education from Briar Cliff University, a master's degree in technology education and training from the University of South Dakota, and her doctorate in educational studies from the University of Northern Colorado. Catherine brings an extensive background in education, serving in such roles as classroom teacher, principal, and most recently, a STEAM and technology integration specialist in the Pendergrass School District. Those who know Catherine best have shared that she is a hard-working go-getter and an extremely trustworthy professional who values teamwork and an innovative vision. She's excited to join the Tempe Elementary School District and ready to utilize her knowledge and make our district a better place. Congratulations, Dr. Catherine Linhart.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Dr. Driscoll. I just wanted to start by expressing how extremely grateful I am for the opportunity to join the Tempe Elementary School District and the wonderful community that I am learning is the Tempe area. I really look forward to this position and all of the wonderful learning that I know that I will be taking part of, and also the innovative new ideas that I've been hearing all about. I would like to give a special thank you to Dr. Marr for bringing me into education in Arizona. I would also really like to thank my husband, Garrett, who is here with me tonight. Without him, we would not be in Arizona. He listened to my crazy idea to move away from the snow and kind of just started this ride here. So I'm very excited to be here. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity.
All righty. You're very welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you leave, only hurt our feelings like 10, 15%, so.
It's always a humbling experience when people leave when you're about to talk. So it's, just want to let you. I have that effect on people, I guess.
Moving on to item 601, Celebrate Excellence, Dr. Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, tonight I have a few items to celebrate. Tomorrow evening, we will celebrate our amazing 2024 Tempe Elementary School District Excellence in Education Award finalists. This annual event created by the Tempe Diablos honors the important work of TD3, Kyrene, and Tempe Union employees. This event will be the 35th year that the Tempe Diablos have helped to honor our school and district staff. Finalists are invited to an award ceremony that includes a dinner, cash awards, and most importantly, recognition of how these individuals make a lasting impact in their school and district community. Please join me in sharing a big congratulations to our finalists and thank you to everyone who submitted their nominations. I'm going to clap. Field trips are an excellent way to provide our students with hands-on opportunities that encourage career exploration. Fifth graders at Frank and Spercali Elementary recently participated in unique field trips that opened their eyes to the endless possibilities of a career in engineering, construction, architecture, and design. Students at Frank visited 4 departments at South Mountain Community College to see the training they offered at the college, including framing and construction, the engineering lab, the electrical lab, and the science complex. Architects at Orcutt Winslow introduced Spercali students to 5 stages of design process: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test, and then use this process to collaboratively design a school cafeteria. Thank you to our own Director of Wraparound Services, Michelle Grimaldi, for making these learning experiences possible. On Saturday, April 13th, Aspire Arredondo students participated in the National History Day Arizona State competition at ASU's Tempe campus. National History Day Arizona is a signature program of the Arizona Historical Society and is an opportunity to engage students in project-based learning, aligning with many Arizona state standards in ELA and social studies, and developing passion for history for students in grades 4th through 12th. Aspire Arredondo students created engaging projects that delved into the historical, cultural, scientific, and social experiences of the past and presented their projects to a panel of judges. In the youth group category, Aspire Arredondo students had 13 out of 14 projects placed, with 6 earning top marks in their category. Congratulations to our incredible students for representing their school and showcasing their knowledge and passion for the histories to others. And that concludes my Celebrate Excellence for this week. Thank you to the 3 people out there.
All right, item 701, open call to public. We have no blue cards. Moving on, item 801, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of the Director of Innovative Environments in School Design position and corresponding job description. You guys have any?
Mr. President, I move approval of the Director of Innovative Environments in School Design position and the corresponding job description.
I second, and when they're hired, I have
Sure.
to tell them. Thank you.
We have a motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries. Moving on to 802, discussion with consideration and possible approval of an intergovernmental agreement between City of Tempe and Tempe Elementary School District for use of youth athletic fields.
Mr. President, I move approval of the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Tempe and Tempe Elementary School District for the use of the athletics fields.
Second.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to item 803, discussion, consideration, and possible adoption of a resolution ordering and calling a special maintenance operation override election to be held in and for the district, declaring the deadline for submitting arguments for and against the election to the Maricopa County School Superintendent as August 9th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Eric Thompson, I believe, has a presentation here on this item.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll. Thanks for having me tonight. We also have our audience member is Jim Gill from Gus Rosenfeld. So if you got any of the technical election questions, he would be the one for that. So he's available for that as well. He's the only one who hasn't left so far. So we're glad you're here.
We pay him to stay.
Yeah. Well, he is kind of. All right, so I'm going to talk about the overrides that we have right now. So the district has 2 overrides. They have the maintenance and operation override. That is essentially for people and programs. That is limited by the revenue control limit, so it's all formula-based. So that's limited to 15% of the RCL. So we've had that for many years. And then the other one is the district additional assistance. We also have had that for many years. It's called the capital override sometimes. They've changed the name a while back, but essentially that is for things. Laptops, software, tables, chairs, really things like that, as opposed to the M&O is people. This is stuff. It is limited to 10% of the RCL and a flat dollar amount. And so that's kind of how a big variance between how the M&O and the DAA is structured. And I'll get into some of the differences and how that impacts stuff later on. But it's 10% or the flat dollar amount, whichever is less. If it's funding in Arizona, it's always whichever is less. Yeah. Okay, so how the M&O override works is when it's passed, the first 5 years are fully funded. Then, if not renewed before that, in year 6, it's reduced by 1/3. Then in year 7, it would be reduced by another 1/3. So essentially, you're getting only 1/3 of it. And then the following year, it would go away. So when we go out, if we go out in November, it would be the last year before the funding would decrease. So if it is approved to be renewed and extended, the funding will stay the same at that 15% of the RCL. If it does not pass, then it would drop by 1/3, which is about $3.5 million. The district additional assistance, another difference between that and M&O is when it's authorized, it is full for 7 years. So it is, there's no phase down for it. The voters renewed both of these in November of 19. Technically, the district additional assistance would go on for another 2 years. There's no penalty or difference to renew it early. And it kind of, if a district is going to go out for it, a lot of times it's just easier to go out at the same time for it. So that's why we would recommend going out for both of them rather than now, and then we'd have to go out again in 2 years. So that's how those work. So for our funding situation, we have been having a decrease in enrollment, and that's how our funding happened. So if we want to remain competitive in the school district payment side, whether it be people or programs, hiring staff, salaries, positions, we kind of feel like it would benefit the district to continue on with that reauthorization of the override to make sure that funding does not decrease. And to give you some context as to what the dollars amount we're talking about, 15% of the revenue control limit is about $10.6 million. And it'll fluctuate every year because that changes based on the funding that the state provides and then the enrollment. It's all formula driven, how you get to the revenue control limit. And so that $10.6 million, that's about equivalent to 130 teaching positions. So if we did not have that, if it did not pass and it went away, those positions would likely have to be cut from somewhere, because if you don't have the money, you can't pay the people. Or you could look at it as roughly $6,000 of each employee's salary is an M&O from the override, because that's about the $10 million from there. So if it's not there, you can't pay it. So that's just kind of the context of where that comes from. Some of the other programs that we help fund with that override are here, and so we want to just make sure that we can continue to fund these programs moving forward. So the DAA, the District Additional Assistance, like I said, it's a little different on the wording because you have a set dollar amount and you have the 10% or less. So some history of what we've had in the past, it really has not changed because the RCL has been always above the flat dollar amount. So we've really been getting the flat dollar amount. So back in 2005, it was 5.1 million. Then it was renewed in 2012 at 5 million, and it was renewed again in 2019 at 5 million. So it's been 5 million or 5.1 since 2005. So it has not gone up. What has gone up is the cost of everything else. So we've been set at that same funding amount for almost 20 years. So our revenue control limit it's about 70 million right now. It's projected to be about 70 million, over 70 million every year of the override. So if you do the math on that, it could be, the 10% would be around 7 million, a little more than that. So some additional context for, if you look back at that 5.1 million that was passed by the voters in 2005, that would have the buying power of 8.24 million today. So we have had that $5 million, but that buying power has gone down year over year as inflation has gone up. So we're proposing doing $7 million. So essentially it would renew the capital override and increase it to the 7, or 10% of the RCL. The RCL would be greater than that, so it likely. You can never exactly predict it, but it's projected to be higher than that. But again, that's still less in purchasing power than we had 20 years ago due to the inflation and the change in costs. So some of those things that we use the DAA override for, we call it capital override, but you can also think of it as the technology override, because that is, there's two different things that we buy capital items with. There's the bond, which think of bond as big buildings, big buses, anything with a B, apparently. So the bond, if we're rebuilding something, we're buying the buses, that's what we're gonna use. We're gonna use bond dollars. The override is gonna be a lot of software licenses. That's what really drives the district, every district now, is software licenses for various programs. Laptops for the students on the one-to-one. Any networks and servers, the behind-the-scenes stuff that really keeps things running. So that technology is really the huge part of the district additional assistance. Then you've got some other things like actual, what you would consider in your mind sometimes more of capital, because you don't always think of software and technology as capital, but the shade structures or the building security, those kind of things. That'd be about 7 million. Technology would be about 42 million. Excuse me. Of that technology, most of it would go to the school-based side of it. So those devices that we have for the students, they have to be refreshed every so often. We have a cycle for that, but those cost a lot of money to have a device in every child's hands. The laptop, I think we had a presentation on the refresh for the teacher laptops a meeting or two ago, and so that's some additional areas where that comes out of it. The touchscreen projectors and those kind of things, and then a lot of that behind-the-scenes network and such is provided through this DAA override. And then the brains behind the district really are a lot of that software, whether it be the Synergy or the Visions, the Power Schools, all these software programs that we have that really keep the district running. The servers, things that you don't think about until they don't work, those are the things that really keep, that this is able to do. Even the GPS software on the buses, things like that. Really important, vital things that are not the shiniest, flashing, bells and whistles kind of thing, but the things that we have to keep the district operating efficiently. And then some more district-wide aspects of it. it can be things like the carpet or chairs, transportation equipment. Like I said, the bond is for the buses. The DA override would be for maybe some of that gear to work on the repair the buses, those kind of things. All right, so now is the part where every voter approved thing comes in. We have the tax part because it does cost some money. For the M&O, it would be a continuation, so it's kind of already there. It just will be renewed. We talked about the DAA increasing by that $2 million. But one thing, once I ran the numbers, I found it kind of interesting. It would have the same tax rate as it did in 2019, because how taxes are assessed in Arizona on school districts, it's not, okay, we're going to tax it at 3%. It's, we need 10 million and we need 7 million. And then we figure out the tax base. So as the tax base expands and gets larger, the actual tax rate would go down because we're just figuring out what the tax rate would be so that we can bring in $17 million. So the actual rates actually turned out to be about the same. There's always some fluctuation on the estimates, but the rates themselves were about the same as they were in 2019 because there's a wider tax base. All right, so May 1st, call for election today. And then we talked about the pro and con arguments August 9th, and then election day would be in November, like it always is. So if there's any questions for myself or Mr. Giel, we would both be happy to answer anything.
Mr. President, I'd like to move this item and then have some discussion.
I have a motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. Allison, I see your thing is up. You got a question?
Mr. President, I have a few questions. Would you like me to just ask one at a time or just do them all?
Go for it.
Okay. So my first question is in regards to something that you brought up, when the 10.6 million annually is equivalent to 130 teacher positions possibly. One of the questions that I will get from the voters is, with that said, or $6,000 minus what they're currently, approximately $6,000 less than what they're making now, what is the average salary in the city of Tempe for our teacher, at the Tempe Elementary for our teachers right now?
It's a little above $60,000.
My next question. On the technology, on the DAA override, the monies that are going into here, one of my main concerns, especially for Darren and his department, is what's happening with AI. I think we need to really get ahead of that. Would this money be able to support his department in being really aggressive on keeping the safety of AI and the potential impacts, good and bad, that we would have with this?
Yes, it would be able to do that.
Building security, the 7.116, I do know there's a big concern about our kids' safety in the district. Do you feel that this is an adequate amount of money in order, I know in our newer schools, we have a better way of incorporating the new safety features than we do in our older schools, and we still have several older schools. Do you feel that that is enough and that we can really bump up our security measures a little bit more than what we have now?
So when we went out for the bond, safety was a big part of that as well. So we can use bond dollars. So we're not limited to only using this for safety. We are planning to use bond dollars in addition to the money in the override to make sure that the buildings are safe.
Great, I just want to make that clear. And then and the last question, how much is this going to cost me? I think you answered it. They shouldn't see much of a difference. We can't say that it's not going to be plus or minus more or less, but it would be very small if it was. Is that what you're saying?
Right. So if you look at the M&O override, that would be
Same.
the same.
Okay.
And then the capital override, we are proposing increasing that by the $2 million. And again, it's not saying, all right, compared to last year, it's compared to 2019 when we went out, it would be about the same because of the wider
Because we have more
tax
people
base.
moving in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
Another incentive to continue building Tempe and making more, and help making it invitable and affordable for more residents.
And those figures we had was based on $100,000 of assessed value. And that is confusing to some people sometimes because there's how much you can sell your house for, there's how much you think it's worth, there's the assessed valuation, and it's all very different.
Yeah.
And so people, I think, would be surprised to know, like when we went out for the bond in 2022, the average assessed value of a home is $157,000. Now, if you try to go out and buy a house for $157,000, that's not going to happen because the assessed value and the actual value you can sell it for they're completely different things.
And these rates are created on the assessed value also?
Yes.
Okay. And on August 9th is where we would be able to make any arguments for or against this, is that correct?
At least prior to August 9th.
By that, okay.
Yes.
So when do you plan on having that open? Would it be in the next couple meetings, or?
Well, it is your pro statements.
Okay.
So we can have discussion over that over meetings when you want, but it has to be before August 9th.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And thank you, Eric. Sorry.
Great presentation. I'm beginning to understand all the moving pieces of this. I guess let's talk a little bit about the M&O override first. It's item 8.03 for special maintenance and operation override election to be held for, and et cetera, et cetera. I think on the attachment B1, it just said this would be a male-only election. And then attachment B1, 2, or whatever, it said it could be either. And I'm wondering which one goes forward.
Yeah, he's talking about the exhibits. I think it's Exhibit B11 and then Exhibit B12.
I'll let Mr. Giel handle that.
Mr. President, members of the board, Jim Giel with Gus Rosenfeld, your election counsel tonight, and also your bond counsel when you're issuing bonds. Happy to be in that role. Good question. That does cause confusion. We build in all the stops in the election resolution. You'll see the same language in both the M&O and the DAA. And we do that because right now we anticipate this will be, since it's a general election year, it will be a polling place election. But we do build in the flexibility if something happens, change in law, whatever, we don't have to race back to you to do a mail ballot election. We suspect most folks are going to vote, via the permanent early voting list, and they're going to vote via mail ballot. But we do anticipate polling places, so we build in both options. We'll only use the election notice that's applicable, but we would like to have both included in the resolution. So again, if the statute changes, they're always doing things at the legislature. Sometimes they help you, sometimes they don't. So we just like to build in the options. So that's why you see that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I didn't have any more questions.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you for the presentation, and I just wanted to thank you for bringing up the assessed valuation portion. That was going to be kind of my prompt question for folks, because in a prior job, took a lot of calls on behalf of the assessor and the treasurer, and a lot of folks don't understand the difference between their full cash value, which is what they think they can sell their home for, and their limited property value, which is the thing that they're taxed on, which is quite typically much lower than their full cash value. And so for everyone curious about what theirs are, you did get a valuation notice back in February, which the appeal notice deadline was back in April, but you can't just go to the assessor's website, look it up. It's right there. And so
It's a pretty user-friendly website.
It's a
You can
pretty
look up
user-friendly website.
anybody's property.
The only thing I will say for folks going to the assessor's website, you can put in too much information into that search box. 123 South Mill Avenue, just 123 South Mill, you're done. Just hit enter. Don't do the avenue, you're going to get too much. But thank you again. And so,
Thank you.
with that said, we have a motion by Jim and seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, motion carries. On a very similar prompt, item 804, discussion, consideration, and possible adoption of a resolution ordering and calling a special district additional assistance override election to be held in and for the district, and declaring the deadline for submitting arguments for and against the election to be to the Maricopa County School Superintendent as August 9th, 2024 at 5 p.m.
Mr. President, I move adoption of resolution ordering and calling for a special district additional assistant override election to be held in and for the district, and declaring the deadline for submitting arguments for and against the election to the Maricopa County Superintendent as of August 9th at 5 PM.
Second.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I forgot what my question was, so aye.
All right, motion carries. Moving on to item 805, discussion, consideration, and possible approval for the governing board members to reaffirm their top 5 priorities to the Arizona School Board Association Legislative Committee for consideration. So,
Mr. President, we had 2 handouts. One was the approved political agenda for 2023, and then we had one, the 2024 agenda that was approved last year. And I guess typically what we do is we talk about the ones we want, talk about the ones that don't appear on this, but I think it's pretty inclusive of where we're at.
sure.
So, and I think the one that's been on my agenda for the last 20 years is fully fund all-day kindergarten and include them in the calculations. Because we only, although we teach them all day, we only get half credit for that. And we need to fix that. And I think there's more and more districts doing that. So I think we might get to that point eventually if we keep hammering away at it. The other issue that I would like to see more of is give the authority to provide affordable housing options to the faculty and staff, and see if we can use some of our space for building some of that, particularly at our schools where we don't have a lot of children, such as Evans. And perhaps we could build something there in partnership with other partners or the city. So I think that's an item that we need to talk about. Right now, it's limited only to rural districts. And I think it needs to be done, particularly for us. I mean, nobody can live here anymore. And there's a lot of districts between where people live and before they get here, and so we don't get to keep them. So anyway, those were my 3 areas. Some housing for our teachers and employees, the ability to build something on our land, and then the all-day K.
All right. Yeah, see those things, Allison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to agree with Jim Lemon for sure on the full-day kindergarten to include kindergarten students in the override calculations. Frankly, when I get this every year, I say yes, all. And I know we legally can't do that, say that, or we don't have enough people to help lobby for us to do that. But the other thing is I kind of put the first one and the second one, or the last one that Jim was talking about together on the maximize state funding for competitive salaries to attract, recruit, retain talented teachers and staff, increase the pipeline of certified teachers, increase the diversity of teaching workforce, and for the difficult to fill positions. I almost feel like those two go together because the ability to make a living wage and the ability to have affordable housing are not just our students' issues, but they're our teachers' issues too. So I get a little conflicted, but that's my input on that. And the other one that I really, the reason why I get frustrated with this questionnaire at this time of year is because we don't necessarily know who's going to be in office and elected for this 2024-25 cycle. And I've made my list of people next to all of these that if they do get elected, that becomes more of a priority for me to yell at them about. If they don't get elected, then it switches around and depending upon who's pro and against public education. But repealing the constitutional aggregated expenditure limit, we all know, I mean, this is the elephant that's in the room. It causes an immense amount of stress between, not just with our CFOs, our superintendents and our teachers and our students. I mean, our kids are even aware of this now, that within seconds, a decision can be made down at the state legislature that literally makes us run out of money at that moment. We've been able to kick the can several times. We have a little bit better fix than we've had before. I think we had a little bit breathing room, but I don't feel like it's enough, and I really feel it's detrimental. There is no secret that there is a move to attack public education in this country, and a move by people that are not in this room. And I think this is one of the big ways that they're going about it, is if you starve something so much that they cannot be successful, then they lose and the others win. And I don't know necessarily what win they're looking for, but I frankly don't care. What I'm concerned about is this aggregate expenditure limit causes so much time and stress that is undue because they wait till the last minute and they end up doing it and figuring out a way, because there's always a way to figure it out. I'd like to put pressure on the people down there to figure it out a little bit faster and figure it out long-term and figure it out for the 90+% of the kids and families that need to use the public school situation, or public school system, who want to use the public school system, and who the families and the community who know that if we put money into public education, we're going to get our money back twofold with all these kids later. This aggregate expenditure limit is if you can see, it's something on my list. So again, no, I don't know that I can group it in for all of them and say this is our most important for our district, but I can definitely say, depending on who is making the decisions for us down there, that's a biggie. I don't know what we do with that, but I just had to say it.
No, I agree with you entirely on that. I think what we've mentioned is 4 of the items, and we're allowed up to 5 here. And so I suppose, I don't know, I'm the last person talking, so I'll get to add one. And I will say oppose any legislation that intends to lessen or curtail the legal authority of locally elected school boards, including their authority to approve curriculum. I don't know. I watch a lot of committee meetings, and they're trying. But, you know, we currently have a governor. It seems like less of an issue, but I don't know. They're thinking about it, so I just want to remind them, maybe not. So I don't know how we need to necessarily word this as a motion. Do I have to read them all? All right. Highlight the. We have to rank them? Oh, goodness. Well, of those 5, how would you want to rank those things? I suppose should be a question first. I don't see why we can't do, I don't know, I mean, maximize funding first, just off the top. I mean, it's number 1 for a reason on the sheet also. And then full day kindergarten 2.
Yeah, for 2. Mm-hmm.
AEL 3, affordable housing 4, and then, I don't know, legal authority 5, I guess would be how I'd shorthand that. Oppose any legislation that intends to lessen or curtail the legal authority of locally elected school boards, including their authority to approve curriculum.
Covered that.
That was number 5.
Mr. President, can I ask for a few minutes just to look over it one more time?
Sure.
Thanks. I have another question for you. So, Mr. President, as we went through this, from what I remember before, we went through by category, and we just kind of lumped those 5 together. So I do have a couple other ones. I mean, we can't necessarily speak on behalf of rural and remote schools because we're not one. But one of the things that I do is call friends and family that are in rural and remote schools. And it is a serious problem on tribal, federal land and remote schools, their transportation systems, and the road systems to get there. I mean, there is hours that it takes some of these kids to get to and from school. So I know that we can only think upon ourselves, but I want to make a declaration to that Tempe Elementary is for all kids, and that we know that there's some school districts that are definitely having a serious issue with that. And that in IT, getting IT to them. We're lucky we're in the city of Tempe. We have it available. We have great partners. Michelle Grimaldi works hard. Dr. Drichter works hard, developing relationships to make sure that all of our kids have access to internet at home and modern technology with Darren going home. So I don't feel that that's as much of a stress, but I want to make sure that it stays up on the list and important. The other elephant in the room is our funding. And the fact that we have the empowerment scholarship accounts that are just not equitable. I don't want to say that I'm pro or con for anything that people need. I've always liked that we're in a place where our parents have choice, we have choice, but I don't believe in an equitable and non-transparent choice. And I don't feel that the empowerment scholarship accounts are being held accountable and are being supervised at a level that the school districts should be held accountable to and are being held accountable to. So I just need to throw in those few cents. The last one is the supporting the legislation access funding that would allow school districts to offer school meals to all students free of charge. We recently just had this happen where we had several schools that weren't able to offer the free or reduced lunch, or we always had the reduced lunch, but not the free. And I can tell a considerable difference in the peace of mind of some of these parents that I actually know who struggle with this on a daily basis. They didn't qualify for the free program, but they don't make enough for the everyday payment of the program. And kids not starving and having enough energy to learn is something that I believe the American value system stands on. So I would like to make sure that that's supported. It is supported now. Could that change? Yes. So I'm putting my 2 cents in there. Do I think it's the largest of our problems now? I don't. But I think it's something that we need to watch closely, and I would like for those programs to be supported, not just on a state level, but on a federal level also. Thank you, Mr. President. And Jim Lemon for having to listen to all that.
And Mr. President, as I understand, we're going to have the legislative session in September or after the leadership conference in June?
I believe it's in September is when or August, September, something like that.
And so with all 250 districts going through this process?
In theory, yes.
In theory, yeah. And so sometimes our priorities don't make it, sometimes they do into the agenda, but usually they've been making most of them into the agenda. So I'm not too concerned about the ranking. So whatever makes you comfortable, Mr. President, I'm fine with that. And Ms. Ewers, that's fine.
I mean, well, with the things that you just mentioned, Allison, is there anything that you wanted to replace? I mean, specifically, the thing ranked 5th since it's at the bottom. Did you want to?
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for asking. I just wanted to make sure that's very clear and it's on the record that those are concerns for all of our children, and that the ones that are facing us the most, I really think, are the ones that we categorized right at the beginning.
Sure.
So thank you for allowing me to speak my mind on that.
Yeah. All right, with that said, if we have no further discussion, do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we submit our recommendations for proposed agenda items to ASBA in the ranked order that we discussed tonight.
Mr. President, I second. which is having 1, the maximize the funding competitiveness. Then I have 2 is fully fund kindergarten. Then I have 3 as repeal constitutional aggregated expenditures. Then I have 4 as give all districts the authority to provide affordable housing. And number 5 is to oppose any legislation that, Jesus, this is such small type. I'm getting old. The ban, where are we? That oppose any legislation that intends to lessen or curtail the legal authority of locally selected school boards, including the authority to approve curriculum.
All right, got a motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to 901, student activity reports. Do we have any questions there? No? Allison?
Mr. President, I move to approve the student activity report for March 2024.
Nothing to approve. No.
Well, it's moved anyways.
Well, unilaterally, we're moving on from Allison's motion to 1001, board information. Allison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to say bravo to McCamey for Matilda. It was so well done, and Darren was there, and thank you for being a part of it and making that happen. Something that I'm recruiting for right now is that we help get a little bit better mic system, and maybe we can find somebody. I need to talk to Michelle Grimaldi about that. And it doesn't have to be at every school, but for performances like this, I think it's the only thing it hinders. And that the stages on our new builds be built higher. And I'm sure we made it low for safety reasons, so I see the plus and minus of everything, because I could see that kids could fall off. And this was cool because the kids were able to come into the facility and be a part of the audience, which is fantastic. But if any of you didn't see it, honestly, it was just as good, if not better, than high school productions that I was in. And I have to say, when I'm in them, they're pretty good. And then for sure better than a lot of high school productions that I've seen. The work that all those kids put in, kudos to the parents, kudos to the teachers, and bravo to the kids. There was a couple students that I knew that were up on stage who are, and I want to make this point here because this is why the arts is so important. They're not necessarily kids that would go into a room and start a conversation, but when they were up on stage, they lit up and they expressed themselves, and they did something that I've never seen them in the last 6 years that I've had them in my life do. It was so powerful and it was so meaning. And I those are the skills that our young adults are going to need in order to get jobs and to stand up for themselves and to progress and get the things that they deserve in life. So again, I can't even tell you, Brittany will tell you, I texted her and I said, this is sensational. I hope we're getting this recorded. So I just want to make sure that that McCamey knows that they did a great job, and thanks for standing up and showing what talented students Tempe Elementary has. Bravo.
Moving on to item 1101, announcements, upcoming events. The Tempe Diablos Excellence in Education Awards will be Thursday, May 2nd, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. at the Gila River Resorts and Casinos. The next regularly scheduled governing board meeting will be Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 5:15 p.m. in the library at McCamey Academy of International Studies. The Tempe Elementary School District Retirement Reception will be Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at McCamey Academy of International Studies. Item 1201, meeting adjournment.
Mr. President, this is usually your old job, so I hesitate. I would like to move that we adjourn this meeting. See, I don't even know how to do it.
You did great.
Goodness, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. That's my motion.
I have a motion by Allison, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.